ladies and gentlemen, I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to have another look at the Object 268 version 4 and talk about, is it still the greatest? Is it still an absolute beast on the battlefield? Now, this was, in my opinion, when it came into the game, one of the most broken tanks to ever come into Blitz, and that's my personal opinion, mainly because of the armor profile, not so much the gun, the speed, but just the armor profile. But before we get into today's video, now, recently I did say that my wife has been very ill. I've been ill. My whole family, pretty much. We've got the lurgies. We've all got the lurgies. I've had a major cold, and I want to talk about that because people always say to me when I go to work everywhere, they always say to me, oh, man up, or it's just a cold. But my colds are like, when I get a cold, it's 10 times worse than any other cold, because I have asthma and a cold always triggers an asthma attack. So that's why over the last few weeks I've been coughing and splurting all over my mic. So I do apologize if I do cough at all or sneeze. I'm okay. I've been taking COVID tests, of course, and they've all been negative. However, my son now has COVID, so he's got COVID. My wife still has COVID. She's only had COVID for a few days, and in fact, over the next few days or the week or so, if I don't post any videos, I do apologize, because my wife at the moment is actually really bad. She's been affected really bad, and she may have to go to hospital. She might not. But here I'm going to announce the reason why she's so bad, because I know a lot of you always take the mick out of me because I've got so many kids. You know, I love a big family. My wife loves a big family. My parents, her parents, they're all from big families. We all love big families, and especially me. I'm a family man, as you all know. I've got quite a few kids, and my wife is pregnant yet again. So she is pregnant. She's 4 months pregnant, and that is why at the moment COVID has really hit her hard. So she's had her vaccination, she's had all that. So yeah, she's pregnant, guys. It's a little announcement for you guys. So hey, another child on the way. So yeah, so bless her heart, she's really struggling. So if I don't post any videos over the next few days, I do apologize. But yeah, family comes first, and she may need hospital treatment for her COVID, unfortunately. But for now, we're gonna get back to work, and we need to work. You know, we got to pay the bills. I'm at work as well. We still got to pay the bills. So today we are bringing you the Object 268 version 4. Now, this tank, I've actually got my own replays, which I'm not going to use because I've just found, as you can see here, I'm unfavoriting them. But yeah, it's still an absolute beast. And when Wargaming rebalanced all of tier 10s, the Object 268 version 4 got left. It got left. It didn't really be touched, and it is still an absolute beast of a tank. So the DPM on the thing, 2,722, not as high DPM as some of the other tank destroyers in tier 10, but to be honest, this tank is not about DPM. And when people always say, oh, it's a shit tank because it's got shit DPM, or not just talking about this, but certain other tanks. Now, there are certain tanks out there that rely on DPM. There's certain tanks out there that rely on armor. So DPM isn't everything. DPM isn't everything, especially when it comes to the Object 268 version 4. Now, the only thing with this tank, which I find, because I've got the tank, the Object 268, which is also an absolute beast, and it's a tank that I've always loved, and it is a beautiful tank. I just don't play this tank no more. It's got the same DPM, but yet the armor profile on the Object 268 version 4 is just so much better. And for me, there's no reason for me to play the Object 268 when I have this tank. Now, this tank might come available again soon. I don't think that this tank will be sold for gold anytime soon. I think anytime it does come for sale, it will be crates or keys or whatever. I don't think it will be sold for gold anytime soon. Just like like the T22 was. You know, Wargaming knew it was overpowered, and they just didn't sell it for gold for a very, very long time. And I think Boxing Day a couple of years ago was the only time they sold it for gold, and that was on Boxing Day for one day, or Christmas Day, just for one day. So that's how they know how strong that tank is, and this is going to be one of those tanks. So the armor profile is 260 millimeters, like that's just standard. Obviously you can get that much higher, but the other stats don't really matter. You've got 363 heat pen. I do run it with calibrated shells. You don't have to run it with calibrated shells. It gives you an extra 33 pen. So I do think, because DPM doesn't matter, I think penetration matters more with this tank. So we're just going to get into some games. We're going to fast forward some games because we don't want to be talking for quite a while, so for a long time, sorry. So the best thing about the Object 268, of course, as I've just mentioned, is the armor profile. The armor profile just is absolutely amazing. Now, it's only amazing if you play it correctly and if you position the tank correctly. How do you position this tank? Well, it's simple. You just look at the enemy. You just look directly at the enemy team. If you start to angle, that is when your armor profile becomes a lot weaker, and people will penetrate you quite easy. Not quite easy, but they will be able to penetrate you a lot more easier than if you was just staring at them. So if you are playing the tank, and especially if you're playing it front line, because this tank can play front line, and if I'm honest, like, it's better playing it front line than it is at the back, because enemy tanks will look at you and they're going to want to shoot you, and they can't penetrate you. So always make sure that you are facing the enemy directly, like straight. If you're angling, they will be able to shoot the side of your gun. So always make sure that you're just facing the enemy directly. So here we're going to have a game where bouncing matters. You know, the armor profile really does matter, and you can see the position he's already got himself in, and he's already bounced 2,810 damage at the moment. So he's only got 1.3k damage, and for me, this tank isn't about getting the damage. You're more likely to win if you put yourself front line, just like this guy is. It's not always about the damage. If you go front line, people are going to shoot you. A lot of them are going to bounce, and at least you're then taking the attention from all of these players. And if they're shooting you and bouncing, they're not doing any damage, and they're not shooting your team, so your team is staying alive. But what you will find with this tank is, if you are frontline like this, people will stop shooting you, and I've seen it, and it happens all the time. Look at this guy here. Look at this guy. He is right in front of him. He doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to know the Object 268. He's just ignoring him, and he's going for other targets. And that is what you will see a lot of times. Like, often you will see it more often than not. If you're playing it front line, people will start to ignore you. Again, the same here with the Kranwagen. He's just ignoring him, and he's going for the E100 because it is an easier target. The same as the Emil here. Look, he doesn't want to know. He's going for the E100. So that is what you will see often with this tank. And if you are playing it front line, especially when you are playing it sort of in this kind of position, if you can face hug these guys, then it's just going to be almost impossible for them to pen you. Don't let them get to the side of you. Don't let them get behind you, because if that happens, then of course they will be able to penetrate you. So far 3,200 damage, another bounce there. Sorry, 3,000 damage now, 3.6k block damage, and it is a 2 versus 3. But of course the E100 is now a one shot. So if you are in this kind of situation where you're a 1 versus 3, always go for the quick tank first, like that guy just there, because that is the kind of tanks that will come back to haunt you, because they'll be able to get around you quite easily, and just keep the slower tanks, especially if it is like a tank like an E100 or a Death Star. The Death Star will still be able to penetrate you, but yeah, you're still going to bounce a lot of shots. You're still going to bounce quite a lot of shots. And there we go, another bounce from the E100. So that is now 4k damage, 4.2k block damage, and he is still full hit points. He's still full hit points. He hasn't lost a single hit point yet. And there is another bounce, and here comes probably, yep, there goes another bounce. So that is now, he's up to 5,800 damage. Now the only thing he does wrong really here is I would be going for the E100 here. Of course he's going to go for the Death Star. The Death Star has the bigger gun. I would have gone for the E100 because he is the lower hit point target. The Death Star, yes, it could do massive damage, but 540 damage, he's resulted in using HE, and as you can see there, he was slightly angled to the E100, and he did manage to pen him. So now he is a one shot. Now what he's going to do here is a match winning decision. He's just like, do you know what, you stay in that corner, I'm running away. And even though the tank's not fast, but neither is the Death Star. The Death Star hasn't got a fast traverse. He manages to get around the corner, which now I don't know why the Death Star stops here. Look, he stops. If he was just to keep going, it would have been game over, but no, he decided just to stop for a little bit and then make a move. But nevertheless, a fantastic game, and that is what you can do with this tank. I mean, over 5,000 damage, 5,000 block damage, 5.8k block damage, and he ends on 6,500 damage himself. So yeah, this tank is still an absolute beast. It's still a freaking beast, and if you do get the chance to get it, then of course you should get the tank. If it comes for gold, at the moment I'm not going to recommend it. We're just going to fast forward this game like halfway, because there's well it's quite long, but yeah, if you've got the opportunity to get the tank, then do get the tank. Of course, if it comes in crates or keys, then no, I'm not going to recommend it. But as soon as this tank comes for gold, even if it's 25k gold to start off with, if you've got the 25k, then definitely get the tank. Now this tank, it reminds me of kind of like, say, like an IS-4, like the old IS-4. Where I used to always say that the IS-4 is a great starter tank. It is an absolutely fantastic starter tank for new players because you had the armor profile. Not so much now because people can deal with it a lot easier, but the IS-4 for a first line was a great first line to grind because you could make mistakes, you know, and you could still get away with it because you've got the armor profile to back you up. This is very similar. This is very, very similar. You can make mistakes. If you push too hard, if you push too far, then you can afford to make mistakes because you have that armor profile. Now this game here, it's only a 1 versus 2 at the moment. We haven't seen a lot. It's 4 kills. He's got 5k damage and he's on 2k block damage. And here comes the Death Star. Of course, he's going to go front out. He's going to go front out because you're not scared. And that is the sometimes it is an issue with the tank because it's got so much armor profile. You kind of rely on that, and you kind of you use it for your advantage, and you kind of like the mouse. Like, I've never really played the mouse too great because it has so much armor profile, so much armor. You kind of just YOLO a little bit, expecting the armor to do its job. This is the same kind of thing, and a lot of people do YOLO too much. And if you're coming up against a player that has half a clue, then you're still gonna be able to be penetrated, even if you are front like facing them front directly. It's going to be a difficult pen, but they can still penetrate you. There are still weak points of the tank. So if you come up against a good player, it might not go for you, it might go against you. But overall, the tank is a fantastic tank, and in my opinion, still the strongest tank in tier 10 at the moment. So let me know your thoughts on the tank. Do you have the tank? Do you play it? Do you love it? Do you think it's as strong as I think it is? Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I will catch you all soon. Bye-bye. With